So I just watched The Penguin episode 3 and I have thoughts. Sorry, I'm like this. I just got out of rehearsals and my voice is very much it's very nasally, but I'll get through it, I guess. So to basically sum up my first two, basically sum up my feeling about the Penguin series prior to episode 3, I was okay with it. Like they were saying it was Sopranos, I was saying it's okay. I really loved the world building, the performances were really good. TV, like prestige TV, I just wasn't feeling it because like those first two episodes helped me care for Oz. Like I'm actually caring for Oz in a very emotional way. But the stakes are low knowing that he will survive in this series and that he will most likely be like the main crime boss in Gotham. We know he's gonna be the Batman Part 2. And so like it really just feels like a Batman Part like 1.5. And that's honestly kind of what Matt Reeves has said. Like he was gonna like put this story into Batman Part 2, but he didn't because they're looking for HBO Max series to do. So they're like, all right, let's just put this in here. And also my other like gripe and Oz's relationship, like I like Victor from the get-go. Like the actor playing him is really good. And I really like their relationship, but it needed more context for me because it's basically set up from the get-go like, hey, like I will kill you if you don't do what I say the first few times. Like that's basically like how he gets into that relationship with Oz is like, hey, I will kill you if you don't do this. And that's basically why Victor does that stuff. And also, we didn't really know a lot about Victor at all. Like, why is he jacking cars? Like, what's he doing? Like, and also, like, if he's doing all this crap, like, wouldn't his parents or, like, somebody be like, hey, why are you out in the middle of the night in the woods? Like, why do you have dirt on your clothes? You know, stuff like that. But this episode, episode 3, completely changed every gripe I had with this series and really elevated it to the point where it's possible that it could be my favorite series of the year if it continues at this level. Now let me explain and get into what episode 3 is about. Episode 3 is titled Bliss. Basically, the Penguin and Sophia are finally doing something about Johnny VD with all the blackmail that Oswald has. He's finally putting that into use to help back Sophia's new product. Basically, kind of like drops. And we get a lot more context into Victor's backstory. In fact, this entire episode is basically structured around Victor as we find out that his parents, the night of the Riddler's big explosion and the flood, died. He was hanging out with some friends, a girl he has a crush on, hanging out by the rooftop during a party when he sees the flood literally crash their apartment and they supposedly die. And right then, like the series like hooked me because it already fixed, hey, I know exactly who Victor is now. I know why he's been doing what he's doing. I mean, the Penguin takes up after a week after the Batman. So his parents like just died. And we also, because of this, we know that like people are still in like FEMA camps, right? Like they're like still like there's so many people still homeless and affected by this. And this was like first time like seeing like, oh, like it was like the first time like seeing like some like the repercussions of like the Riddler's actions, because we haven't really like seen like that many besides what Batman saw when he during election night. Like that's basically like what I loved about this, is that like we got so much context into Victor, and that's what leads me to my main thing that like made me go, oh my god. We get so much into Victor's and Oz's relationship. It is so much more complex than I thought, and it really like brings out such complexities of both characters. So to explain, I thought Oz was kind of like using Victor a little bit. Like obviously he cared about him because like of his ability, and like he knows that he has a little bit of a tragic upbringing. He doesn't know the main picture. And also Oz is kind of like, he wants to be that gangster that like everybody respects, everybody loves. You know, episode 1, he's telling that same story of how, oh, you know, I want people to know my name and I know theirs. I want to help the lower guy, but I don't want people to fear me. So basically what happens is Victor runs into his old crush and they kind of hit it off. He's been thinking about it a lot lately, and this crush basically says, hey, I'm leaving. And Victor's just like, no, like I need you here. So she convinces him, hey, in a few weeks I'll buy you a bus ticket, we can get out here together, all right? And Victor seriously considers this. I mean, he's scared and he says this up front like, hey, like, I don't know if Oz will let me leave. 2 weeks until she is leaving for California. We see that fear of, I want to be with this girl, but I fear for my life. And it gets to the point where she keeps texting him and right near Oz, and Victor's kind of like, That's kind of going on for a few days. And while those few days are happening, we kind of learn that Oz is lonely. He really has no one besides his mom. And due to his mom, like, showing signs of like Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, he really has no one. And that he finds in Vic. We also see that he stands up for him in a way. He gives him $1,000. To like the very first few minutes, he gives him $1,000. And he also sees that he's hurting a little bit, and understandably so, because the previous episode, Victor screws up the job, right? And he's like, hey, like, you learned, right? You learned, we're done with that. But here, how about $1,000, right? I don't think I'd ever paid you before. Like, he's trying to cheer Victor up. Like, Oz is doing like a Johnny Vitti thing, and they're both at a restaurant just kind of waiting for them to like meet up with them. There's a moment where Victor's kind of like looking through the menu, and he's like, it's like steak fillet, that's what he's trying to say, but he cannot get the rest of the fillet out. He can only say F. And the waiter goes, steak fillet, sir? And Oz like stops him immediately. He's like, no, let him finish. Like, he respects Victor, and he knows what it's like to be, he just wants respect the way Oz wants respect. And he says that through the series, like, I believe in you. I think you can do things. I think you can do great things, but you just need confidence. You just need something in yourself. And then the day comes when the bus ticket arrives. And Oz, like, again, the phone rings, and Oz is like, that's a little weird. You see it in Victor's eyes, like, he's scared for his life. For a second, Oz thinks that he is going to go to the cops. So he's like, give me your phone right now. Are you a rat? Give me your phone. So he sees it, and he's just like, you see how personally hurt he is? Not only that Victor's going to leave, but that Victor thinks he's going to kill him. Because Oz thinks that they had a real relationship. He thought that they were somewhat friends and that he was a mentor-mentee. But what Victor really thought was that if he didn't do anything, he would die. And so it gets to the point where like Oz pulls a gun at him, not gonna shoot him, but it's like, is this what you feel? Do you really, is all you see in me just some guy with a gun at your head? Is that all you felt after all the money I gave you, after everything I've been trying to teach you and all that? And it, like, he's like, I'm trying to teach you that you have to work your way up. Like, if you want to succeed, if you want this, you have to work with me. You have to, I will help you, but you have to be with me at the bottom, and we will work our way up. And we see Victor makes a tough choice, and he doesn't go. He doesn't go with his girl because he doesn't want to end up like is struggling to make ends meet. He doesn't want to be like that. He's basically saying, at least I'll have a shot at the American dream, like what my dad wanted, if I work with Oz. And it gets to the point where at the very end, Sophia and Oz are at gunpoint, and Victor saves them. And you kind of see that, like, Victor needs Oz and Oz needs Victor. Like, it's such, it like really contextualized that relationship so well, and it was such a great visualizer for it. And that's basically it. Like, this was a great piece of episode. This was a great piece of television. Like, this was the first episode where I was like, oh, this is television. This isn't the Batman 1.5. I feel for Oz, I feel for Victor, I feel for the story. The story was moving in great paces. I really enjoyed it. This felt like a regular piece of television. This didn't feel like a Marvel Disney Plus show where I was waiting for the setup I was waiting for the setup. I was waiting for the twist. That it felt like fluff. Like, no, this was a great piece of television. And that's why I'm talking about this now. I don't know if I'm going to be going through episode. Like, I didn't do episode 2. I was originally just going to do the full series review, but I just had to talk about episode 3 because I loved it. And I realized I'm blabbing about it a lot. So please go see it. So yeah, The Penguin episode 3, 4.5 stars and a heart. I don't think I've ever said like and subscribe, so please like and subscribe. Do it for my voice at least. You can tell how bad it is right now. Comment down below, follow me on Letterboxd. Hopefully you heard what I said. I mumbled a lot.